Welcome back live to Daytona International Speedway. Koolerz 300 practice for the NASCAR Busch Series. Second practice session of the day for these cars. The track will go green just as soon as cleanup is completed from a crash at the end of Winston Cup practice.
You know, it's not much to it. It's pretty much a no-brainer, if you ask me. If you look at the tape, Sprague gets into the one car, bounces off of him into the side of the 4 car. I mean, that's basically what happened.
Not sure he actually even hits Mark's car, but just got it close enough to it to have to turn away.
Turbulence. There's one of the real victims of what happened right there. Elliott Sadler in the M&M's 38 car and Jeff Burton in the 99 car. Both of them having to go to backup cars. They'll have to start at the tail end of the field in the 125s on Thursday.
As will Mike Skinner. They had to roll out a new Kodak Pontiac for him. Sprague's car did not appear to be damaged.
No, he said they're going to put a nose on it, and he's good to go.
So the track is open for NASCAR Busch Series practice. Here's Dick Berggren.
And this will be the second practice session of the day for these cars. Kerry Earnhardt, driving car number 12, was the quickest man in that first practice session. He has never won a pole before here at Daytona, but told me moments ago that this could be his deal. To Matt Yoakum.
Well, Dick, everybody expected an Earnhardt to be on top of the speed charts, but not Kerry, but Dale Earnhardt Jr. He was the fastest car here during testing, but Kevin Bono-Mannion, the crew chief, told me they feel like they've lost about a 1/10.5 from their test times, so they're trying a few different tweaks here and there to try to get that car back to where they feel like it should be. They're not concerned about winning the pole. They just want to win the race. To Jeff Hammond.
Well, when you come to Daytona, there's always pressure, but for this year, a young man coming into Daytona for Stanton Barrett, a lot of pressure. He's driving for Jack Roush, and he's also driving the number 60 car. That's right, the car that won the Busch Grand National Championship a year ago. He's got a new crew chief. He's got to fill some pretty big shoes right now, and after finishing up 30th in the first round of practice, he's got a long ways to go. He knows he's got more pressure yet. To you, Mike.
Thanks, Jeff. Second practice session for the NASCAR Busch Series. There's Shane Meal, new look to that car, new sponsor, new number. He was 47 last year.
You know, talking about Kerry Earnhardt being fastest in first practice, surprise, surprise, it has Dale Earnhardt Incorporated engines under the hood. So not a big surprise, I don't think.
Nope. Like we've said for Dale Jr., Michael, and Park, and the whole crowd, I think that's a big part of the key to their success. I know you got to have good aero, but this is one place where a little more horsepower will overcome a lot of problems.
You know, the Busch cars, they run the restrictor plates here under the carburetor just like the Winston Cup cars, but it is a little bigger restrictor plate. 30 seconds of an inch bigger hole, 29-30 seconds. They do run the 390 carburetor, a little smaller carburetor, but I talked to some engine builders down here at the test. They said the 390 carburetor almost complements the restrictor plate just a little bit, and these things actually make about 10 to 15 more horsepower than the Winston Cup engines here with the 7/8 restrictor plate.
The reason that is the size of the 390 carburetor, the Ventura sizes are smaller. That lines up better with the hose and the restrictor plate. What you try to do with a restrictor plate is just like taking a water hose and trying to shoot water through a little bitty hole. If you can get it lined up, it'll shoot through there and come out in a perfect column on the other side. But if you don't, it hits the plate, it'll splash all over the place and won't go out, won't make the kind of power you want it to. So that was things we used to do. Move the carburetors on the intake manifolds, trying to get those columns of air in that column lined up to go through that plate. That's when you make the most power.
So if these cars are now so similar to Winston Cup cars, and they're even developing a little more horsepower, why wouldn't we expect that their pole speed would be quicker?
Well, they've done things to the aero that slows it down. You know, where Winston Cup is at 55 degrees of spoiler, these cars actually have to run 60 degrees of spoiler. Also, we've talked all week long about the 350-pound rear springs in the back of a Winston Cup car to keep it from traveling down. These cars have to run minimum 415 pounds, so stiffer rear springs keeps that rear spoiler up in the air.
Plus, they don't get the advantage of the new bodies. They've got last year's body style on the Pontiac and the Chevrolet. And so they don't have the aero package anywhere near what they have in Winston Cup.
Now, that's only here at Daytona and Talladega. Starting in about a week and a half at Rockingham, they have the option of going to the new body style. You can still run the old body style, but with the downforce those cars have, I doubt very seriously they'd want to do that. But the reason they let them still run it here in Talladega, or make them run it here, is a cost reduction to the owners to keep them from building 2 or 3 more new cars.
Brad Baker on track. Let's go down the garage area. Dick Bergman.
Last year, 19-year-old Brian Vickers raced cars that were owned by his dad. He did well enough that he has gotten a ride in a Hendrick car. What's it like to sit behind the wheel of a deal like this?
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, I left the family organization last year, and I really feel like I stepped right into another one. I know I keep saying that, but it's the truth. I mean, the way the Hendrick family and the whole Hendrick organization is treating me, it's unbelievable. And GMAC, the sponsorship is awesome. I mean, they're so cool, and they've been very helpful and supportive of everything. And we're down here to give it our best.
Watch this young man. He's a good one, Mike Joy.
Thanks, Dick. Brad Baker was 12th fastest in the morning session, the driver out of Nashville, Tennessee. And we'll be back with more Busch Series practice in a moment. Welcome back to Daytona, where the track is open for Busch Series practice. Mike Joy with Larry McReynolds and Darrell Waltrip. Our historian Greg Fielden alongside. He comes up with some of the most useless information as we watch Jason Keller in the Albertson Sport. For example, do you know who the first driver was who was ever black flagged in a race at the Daytona International Speedway, and why?
Well, it had to be in 1959.
Well, it wasn't until 1960, we're told.
Oh, 1960, year after the first race. And why? Didn't have his helmet on.
You're right.
Really?
Yeah. Herman Beam went out for the qualifying race, and starter Johnny Bruner noticed something peculiar looking in the car that, I don't know if Herman was nervous and forgot to put on his helmet.
No, I mean, I don't. That just seemed like a natural thing to me. Well, those guys, I mean, they used to drive in T-shirts, and football. I mean, they didn't really have a helmet, and they didn't necessarily. I think some of the short tracks they ran on, I don't think they even needed a helmet.
And speaking of throwbacks to those days, Dick Berggren is with Randy LaJoie.
Oh, that's good. I thought you were going to call me the throwback.
No.
Randy LaJoie has won this Busch Series race at Daytona in 1997. He won it in 1999. He won it in 2001. Are you good at math? He is winning it every other year on the odd year. This is an 03. What do you think? You're going to win it again?
This is the same car that we won it with in 01, and we keep taking some stand out. We keep going faster, so we're here at the beach. We know we got a good race car. Carl Wagner's give us a good motor, and Koolerz can give us everything we need. So everything, if they don't start until tomorrow when we qualify, but we're just out here playing around right now.
Oh yeah, playing around right around 190 miles an hour.
Now in this practice session, you'll see cars taking single car runs. Here is Matt Kenseth, familiar number 17, new sponsor, Bayer Aspirin. Much as we saw in the opening Winston Cup practice, because these cars are tricked up for qualifying, single car qualifying. That'll happen, you'll see, on speed tomorrow.
You know, in 2001, Matt ran a lot of Busch Series races and won a lot of them. 2002, they couldn't find a sponsor. They couldn't find a deal, so they didn't run the car. And so it's good to see him back in the Busch Series. And we've talked about this, Larry and I have, and Mike too. I believe right now the way the cars are, the way the practice schedule is, the way everything is right now, running a Busch car is a very helpful thing to a Winston Cup driver. Not having an afternoon practice for Winston Cup cars, these guys get out there and they get to race on the racetrack, and when they come off the track, they know what it's like when they get ready to start back on Sunday. So I think it's got its advantages now.
Yeah, we agree.
This right here, the 30 car, this is a guy you wouldn't maybe expect to see running the Busch Series race. It's Jimmy Vasser, who was the 1996 kart champion driving for Chip Ganassi. This is a one-race deal. Now, he is the teammate to Chad Blunt. And Jimmy was the fastest in January testing down here. But this is a one-race deal for Jimmy. This is actually a car that Stedman Marlin, son of Sterling Marlin, is going to run in about 15 races this year beginning at Las Vegas. But this car, it's a Dodge, was mighty fast down here in testing, and it was pretty fast. Earlier in the day was 5th quickest.
Well, I'm not trying to get the guy in hot water or anything, but, you know, I've heard him say he didn't really think a whole lot of stock car racing, that he was kind of an open-wheel guy, and he thought stock car racing was kind of second rate. So, my. We must be doing something right.
I would say. Here's Matt with one of last year's top rookies.
Scott Riggs' team preparing to take the number 10 car back out of the racetrack. Scott, how is the car today?
I didn't hear you.
How is the car today?
Pretty good, not too bad. You know, it's hard. You got so many cars down here in such little time. You know, you really had to have your act together and everything pretty much set before you get down here. And we felt pretty good about it. You know, we're right there mid-pack. You know, nothing to scream about trying to go for the pole or anything. But you know, it's frustrating because you make changes and you only have a few runs, and we go out there this time and sort of wasted a run. We had a right rear tire go flat on us, so we sort of had to throw that run away. But you know, that's what it's all about, having a teammate. We're trying to share as much information as we can with Jason's team and help each other as much as we can. And like I say, we're not bad, but I don't think we're a threat for the pole.
And also one change this season, a new crew chief. How is the chemistry gelling?
Yeah, I think Doug Randolph's been a great addition to the team. He's really got his focus on. He knows what he wants out of the team. He's a great leader, great inspirational kind of guy to really keep the guys motivated. And you know, he comes to the team with a lot of ideas and fresh ideas, and it's really everything's paying off and working out so far, making us faster and making us better.
Doug replaces Harold Holly, and he came over from Chip Ganassi Racing. And let's go from one crew chief story to another. Jeff Hammond.
Thanks, Matt. I've kind of caught up here with one of my favorite cars here on the racetrack, the Toys R Us car, and Hermie Sadler. Hermie, got your new ride this year. How things going so far?
Well, not real good, but I'm glad to see we finally got some work out of you pushing my car. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad you gave me some credit for a change.
It hadn't been too good a day for the Sadler family yet. Our Toys R Us Chevy was not where we wanted to be this morning, and Elliot just crashed his M&M's car over there. But guys told me before we came we weren't qualified good, but we'd hauled a mail in the race. So that's what we decided to do, was not take up a lot of time on our speedway car and get ready for Rockingham, Vegas, Atlanta as far as qualifying is concerned. So we'll keep working on it, see what we got, and they tell me we'll be good on Saturday. So really excited to be back full-time in the Busch Series, and looking forward to contending for these points.
Well, right now, the Candy Man and the Toy Man got it pretty much covered as far as the Sadler family is concerned. Mike?
Thanks, Jeff. In practice, Kerry Earnhardt has posted the top speed once again in this session, as he did this morning. Casey Kane, Jamie McMurray, and Matt Kenseth. Busch race Saturday on Fox. As you look at the speed chart for Busch practice, you will note in the makes column, parity department.
But you know what? Last year, how many Dodges were there? One or two?
It was only about two or three.
Two cars last year, and this year we've got a whole host of them up here, courtesy some of Chip Ganassi's outfit there.
But 4 makes in the Busch Series, and they're all represented in the top 4 speeds. Kerry Earnhardt Chevy, Casey Kane's Ford, Jamie McMurray in the James Finch Dodge, and Mike Wallace in a Pontiac. Dick Berggren with a man who's always a threat for the pole at Daytona.
Yeah, last time they ran here in Daytona with the Busch Series cars was July. Joe Nemechek won the pole, led 78 laps, won the race, same car. How's it feel to you today?
Our Cellular One Chevy's really strong. You know, we unloaded, and the car was really good. Same car we won with here 4th of July weekend, and it's fast again. You know, tomorrow's qualifying. We'll put everything to it that we need to, put all our oils and all that stuff. Carl Wagner built the motor in this thing, and this thing is awesome. I'm telling you, I'm looking forward to this.
Are you as pumped up as you look?
I am looking forward to it. I got a great Winston Cup car. My Busch car is good. It's going to be a great weekend.
That is one happy man, Mike Joy.
I'd say so.
Running pretty good.
Now here's Dale Earnhardt Jr. in a number 8 Busch Series car. That is a partnership between Junior and Teresa Earnhardt. DEI have gotten together to run a few Busch races this year.
He'd be putting on the Ritz.
He's actually going to run the 3 restrictor plate races, the 2 here at Daytona and the 1 at Talladega. Then Steve Park is going to run a handful of races. And then a young kid out of the Northeast you're familiar with, Mike, Martin Truex Jr. is going to run this car at some short tracks.
Second-generation Busch North drivers had a lot of success there.
Of course, this is a DEI effort when you talk about the motor and the body and all. Now, Junior won this race a year ago, but that was in a Richard Childress car engine program. But he was so fast down here at the test. It was just It was almost like he was in a league of his own.
What are you seeing here, Darrell?
Well, I'm thinking he's letting an awful lot of people drive that car. That might be an opportunity right there. He's letting all these young guys, you know, maybe they need some
experience.
Yeah, they need some experience and some leadership
So
there.
if Michael won't let you drive
Can't get in their old dream
machine,
I see an opportunity here.
I've got the number to call.
I've been eating Oreos all my life. And it's starting to show, too. Double stuffs, that's my favorite.
And Dale Jr. has just moved to third on the speed chart, displacing from the top 3 the driver who's with Matt Yoakum.
And, you talk about a lot of young guys. There are 3 young guys who are going to drive the #1 machine out of James Finch's shops this season. Jimmy Murray's one of them. Maybe we can let Darrell maybe get some seat time to help out you young guys.
Yeah, you know, David Strimi and I are going to split this, and David's never run a bush race before, but he went and tested with us at Lakeland last November. We took he and 2 other kids, and he was faster than me, Sterling, and Casey. So they decided, you know, Chip got together with Finch on this, and they're going to let him run all the races that I don't run.
Now, how big of a benefit is it for you? Not here at Daytona, because, you know, it's not going to play that big of a part, but where you go to Rockingham and Darlington and places like that, that's got to pay big dividend.
Well, it will, and Darlington was one of the ones I told him. I said, if we don't get to run any other bush race, I want to run Darlington. I felt like last year that was one of the things that really helped my performance. You know, everybody said, well, after he won at Charlotte, he did well. Well, the reason I was doing so much better is I was getting so much more seat time with the Cup car, and it was just helping both the Cup program and the Busch program. So, yeah, I mean, they're going to let me run 16 races in this. Yellow Transportation came on board, and actually they let me come on board, I guess. And, I mean, I'm just excited. This is, you know, last year this was my only job pretty much, but now this is for fun, and this is a great group of guys. And the thing is, with James, everybody, if you can't win, they're like, hell, just come on in, you know. So it's just going to be a good time.
Well, keep an eye on this guy this year, especially here at Daytona. The relief is off a great time in Winston Cup qualifying for the Twin 125, so he should have a great speed weeks. Jeff Hammond?
Yeah, I'm here beside the XM Nation Ford driven by Mike McLaughlin. Mike, at the end of the season, everything was looking pretty good, and things got kind of tough, but the journey's been long, but you're here at Daytona.
That's right. We're here with Katie and I. My wife and I made a commitment to come to Daytona. We rallied up a bunch of guys that would have been with us this year before the rug was pulled out from underneath us. But most of all, the race fans, my friends, family, have supported this effort. They're the one that put us here, through XM Nation mostly. It's amazing, the amount of support we've received to come here.
You got a chance here. Look like you're pretty good as far as qualifying time, first time out.
We're not bad. I think we've got a decent car, and, you know, I've got a good group of guys. Harold Holly's crew chief in the deal for the week. Got Clyde McLeod, and like I said, a lot of good guys that we had planned on working with this year. And I feel good about being here at Daytona, especially the way I'm here. And that's from the fan base support. Thank you.
Well, Mike, there's a young man right here that definitely has got the glimmer in his eyes, and he's not going to quit for anything. So Mike McLaughlin, I guarantee, will be a factor in this Saturday's race.
Well, he and Harold Holly were hired by a car owner new to the sport who promised great things, bought a bunch of cars and engines from Robert Yates, and suddenly, oops, there was no money behind that deal. And a couple of weeks ago, those fellows all found themselves unemployed.
And I know one thing that had to inspire them about coming back down here and racing is at the test, they were very, very fast, and they're running Robert Yates motors. But I was told this morning by Harold Holly that Todd Bodine actually agreed to pay the tire bill for this team this week. Greg Zippindelli, who worked with Mike McLaughlin, he pitched in some money. And Matt Yoakum, there's a lot of people that has helped this effort.
A lot of people have helped pitch in. Brian Goley out of New Jersey. And one thing to keep in mind, Jay Robinson, the gentleman who bought all the Angela Motorsports cars that were originally from Robert Yates Racing, he's the guy that sat down at dinner about 2.5 weeks ago and said, look, what can I do to help you guys get this car to Daytona? I want to see you guys run up front. You deserve it. You worked hard. Let's see if we can work something out. He's been very, very generous. He's allowed, you know, Mike and the whole gang to work out of his race shops. He's done everything he could to help this group get this car to Daytona, help get this car on the racetrack, hopefully qualify it and have a chance to put it in victory lane.
And Darrell, you talked earlier about how Robert Yates had helped a lot of folks throughout their careers trying to get going, and it's so great to see that none of the people that have been in this sport and want to help it grow want to see somebody get a raw deal like that.
No, and they know the disappointment that is to the driver and the people that left good jobs to take this new situation. But you know, folks, we're not talking about chump change here to get to Daytona. We're talking about probably somewhere in around $100,000 to come down here and spend a week with engines, tires, people, everything it takes to put a car on the racetrack down here. So it takes a lot of money, even under good circumstances, to come down here. So the hats off to everybody, Robert Yates included. Robert has got a big heart.
Yes.
And if you go to Robert with a sad song, he'll usually help you play it.
Jay Sauter, a little bit ago, you saw the 5 of Brian Vickers and also the 37 of David Green as practice for the NASCAR Busch Series continues. There's a new program debuting next week as part of NASCAR TV on Speed Channel, and it's a shameless ripoff of Inside Winston Cup, except this is inside the NASCAR Busch Series. Alan Bestwick is back along with Randy LaJoie, Hank Parker Jr., and a rotating third panelist. On the first show, Scott Wimmer will join Alan, Randy, and Hank inside the NASCAR Busch Series. Airs Mondays at 11 p.m. on Speed.
The reason they rotate that one spot is because can't anybody stand it for longer than maybe a week or two. Got to run in another man.
Stanton Barrett, 21st on the speed chart.
The red flag had just come out. We're hearing a report there's some oil out in 1 and 2. We saw the 16 car just before we went to break. Larry guns them on that was smoking down the backstretch. So I'm sure that's probably where it's from.
Let's meet the fastest man in both these practice sessions. It's not Dick Berggren, but it's the fellow with him.
Yeah, but it's Dick Berggren's line. Kerry Earnhardt, quickest in both, never won a pole before here at Daytona. How big would this be if you can back it up in qualifying tomorrow?
Man, it'd be very big. You know, we haven't had a pole in Busch Series yet, and really had never had a pole in my whole racing career. But number 12, Fitz Bradshaw Chevrolet Monte Carlo Supercuts is running awesome today. You know, I got to thank all the guys at DEI, the engineering, the aero, and engine department, and then Bob Temple and Eddie and all the guys at Fitz Bradshaw Racing for doing a great job this season. We've kind of stepped the program up over the winter time, and we're going to be a force to reckon with this year.
What's the track like out there now?
It's cool. I mean, it's got a little heat in it, but it's not been bad for us. You know, we actually came here and tested, and we're better here now than we were when we tested, so it's been pretty good for us.
Good for you. Nice to see you running up front. Mike?
I can just see it now, guys. Everybody's been watching your brother Michael, the way he wears his helmet in an interview, and it looks like it's catching. You see Kerry Earnhardt wearing it the same way.
See, the first time I saw Michael, I thought he had his helmet on backwards, but they just raise them up so you can hear them.
That's pretty cool. Here's a look at practice speed.
And he likes to be heard.
For the NASCAR Busch Series. He didn't let on in that interview that he does more television than you do racing.
Yeah, he does it.
So,
he does. He's a busy man.
That's right. Work continues in the garage area for the NASCAR Busch Series. We'll be right back. The NASCAR Busch Series in their second practice session of the day. Kerry Earnhardt quickest, Casey Kane, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Jamie McMurray, and Mike Wallace. Jeff Hammond with a contender for this championship.
That's exactly right, Mike. In 2002, you came very close. What have you done in the offseason to get yourself to where you really want to be, and that's that championship?
Well, we've tried to learn from our mistakes in 2002, and guys have really been working hard. The preparation for the pit stops has been phenomenal, and that was a weak part we had last year, and real proud of them for that. And just tried to massage on these Fords a little bit, and hopefully we can do one step better this year.
How's your car been so far today?
Been about what we expected. This same car ran all 3 restrictor plates last year. Seems to draft a little bit better than it qualifies, but this practice session, we've seen a little bit more speed out of it than the first. So, you know, if we can get ourselves around the top 15 qualifying, we'll be okay.
Well, Mike, look for Jason Keller to step it up another notch in 2003.
You know, guys, I'm sure they were glad that NASCAR didn't mandate the new body rule here, because that's the car that finished in the top 4 at all 3 restrictor plate races. He won Talladega and finished 4th at both races here. Of course, has that Robert Yates power under the hood of that car as well.
The Greg Pollock's team, championship winners with Jeff Green a couple of years ago.
And Jason's actually finished in the top 3 in points the last 3 seasons, just hadn't got that top honor just quite yet.
Jimmy Vasser going back out. Right now he has the 9th fastest speed of this session. And here's Michael.
That's a wearing dreams machine.
Michael had a good test down here in January.
Yeah, he did. His Busch program has just really been good. Last year, he got Richie Gilmore and those guys at DEI doing some Busch engines, and that just turned his program around. He's been really good ever since. And Bobby Kennedy, the crew chief, you know, has been with Michael for a long time, and they got a pretty good little deal going. A good little operation.
He was second fastest in the morning session. Dick Bergeron with another NASCAR champion.
Mike List last year won the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series Championship. He's looking this year to win the Busch Series Championship. So like to sit in a ride as good as this one?
Well, we lost some speed since we tested here, probably about a half second.
How is that possible? We keep hearing that. What happens to these cars?
We weren't fooling ourselves, you know. All we did is went home, painted her up red and white, and put Rockwell automation on the side, and came to the racetrack. We thought we would be in the flats easy, and we're 8/10 from that right now.
So what did you do to the car to try to make it faster?
Well, I mean, we did everything we could when we tested here, and we threw everything at it, so there's not much more to throw at it, so I don't know what. We're just going to try look at our nose probably tonight.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mike Troy, I bet we've interviewed a dozen drivers since we've come here for Speed Weeks, and they have had this same story. Lost a half a second, 3/4 of a second, 3/10. It's just a strange. Is this deal haunted?
And kind of the same story. You know, they come down here and test in primer, and they all throw that nice glossy paint on there, and that's not it.
No,
but that's what they're pointing at.
But here's what happens. You come down here and you test. You take the car over there before you go home, right before you go home, and run it through the template room just to check everything. Then you find out, that template doesn't fit exactly right, and then there's off just a teeny bit. So you go home, you get the old Bondo out, and you fix the car so that it's legal all over like it's supposed to be. And you show up back down here, you say, hey, what have you done? Nothing. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that, nothing.
But each one of those Zackleys was a few hundred.
Oh, yeah, and then you just start saying, okay, but I thought you said, well, we had to fix that fender, and that quarter was rubbing, and we had to, you know, so that's what happens to him.
Look what happened to little brother.
Holy cow, he jumped right up there.
Fastest of practice, Michael Waltrip.
48.97.
Yeah, it's a good lap.
So Michael Waltrip goes to the top of the speed chart over Kerry Earnhardt, Casey Kane, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. Michael Waltrip has gone to the top of the speed chart, and now 3 Chevys in the top 5, along with Casey Kane's Ford and Jamie McMurray's Dodge. In this second practice session for the NASCAR Busch Series, they will qualify tomorrow, and you'll see that live here on Speed.
And I think that DEI power is showing up again. Michael, Kerry, and Dale Jr. right there, 1, 2, and 4. And I don't want to keep. I know the guys in the fab shop will get mad at me if I keep talking about it, but Richie Gilmore and those guys are making some good horsepower with these restrictor plate motors.
Bobby Hamilton Jr. there for Ed Renzi's team.
My old buddy Fred Wonky.
Fred.
You know, we said the track is open for practice, and you wonder why these cars are lined up on pit road. Why don't they go out there and practice? Well, Mike, you mentioned earlier, this is qualifying practice, and it's kind of a gentleman's agreement. You're trying to get that clean lap in. You don't want anybody out there in front of you, behind you. My theory's always been if you can see that car, he's braking the air and drafting it. It's just 2.5-mile racetrack. About you can only get out there at one time and feel good about it is maybe about 3 or 4 cars. So right now, not by NASCAR rules, these guys are waiting till they can get out there and get a clean lap in. But trust me, here in about 45 or 50 minutes, they'll be all over the place out there trying to get those last laps in right before practice ends.
Yeah, you sit here until they say we got about 5 more minutes and everybody hits the track at once.
Go to the garage and Matt.
We're down here in the garage here, Michael Waltrip pulling it double duty. By the way, do you realize that we have greatness in our presence? Artie Kempner, a.k.a. AKTVD, National Television Director of NFL on Fox.
That's huge, pal.
Is that not huge?
I got to be on there the other night in Philadelphia. I like that a lot.
You can just see that he just oozes like technological knowledge, doesn't he?
When I see him, I think oozing.
Or he says that. Oh, we all think that.
Knowledge.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Well, by the way, I can't out-talk him, but I'll give it a shot.
Oh, we all know you can out-talk anybody.
That's what directors do. I came down here to see if he'd want to put a little camera on his helmet for the 500. I mean, he's up front, try to rig something up so we can watch how his head moves.
Should have had it on about an hour ago when I drove through the middle of that wreck.
We had an in-car of you driving through that. That was to close your eyes and look around, huh?
Precision driving was all that was. Just exactly what I wanted to do and doing it calmly.
Kind of like precision directing.
The Aaron Chevy's running good. Let's give my boys from Sherrills Ford a little props. Thanks to Aaron's, all the people, Charlie Loudermilk, Ken Butler, the folks that make this Aaron's Dream Machine get on the track.
And that's your posse, right?
That is. We're from a little town located just on the west-north end of Lake Norman called Sherrills Ford.
I've been there.
We've gathered together a group of boys that are from there, and we come to Daytona, and we have called ourselves now the Sherrills Ford Posse. We are a division of the Dirty Mo Posse, because that's how we got our name.
You're the senior division, though, correct?
But we are no way related to them, because we tried to be, but they won't let us yet.
You're too old to go hang with them?
Maybe so, but I tell you what,
you can't stay up that late, can you?
What's cool, though, if they need to go from Mooresville to Hickory, North Carolina with the DMP, they can come right through Sherrills Ford.
They get a free pass?
We've opened our gates. They can fly their colors. They can do whatever they want. They have to be respectful, but they can come through.
You know, Artie has a posse, too. The Artie Three Boys posse.
Now, we've got the Aaron's Dream Machine posse. I'll sell for Aaron's anytime now. They buy time on Fox. We love Aaron's.
Pretty car in the mat. Pretty, isn't it?
It's a very pretty car. I think we've talked too much about posses down there, Michael. We'll walk back in here and we'll look at this very beautiful race car. By the way, you don't paint that yourself, do you?
That's done by Dave. Dave at Motorsports something.
Motorsport? You mean you've got a golf course on your premises, but you don't paint your own race cars?
No, painting is not economically feasible for us to do in Sherrills Ford. We like to take care of the environment out
here.
You're
helping out the environment. I see what you're saying. You're environmentally sound. Well, let's go back upstairs to somebody else who is environmentally sound. And when you spill this on your uniform, you can use that to wash it with. Mikey?
Not a lot of room left for anything else on that suit, is there?
I believe that uniform's a little big on him, isn't it?
It fits me perfect.
There was smoke from the 54 car of Hermie Sadler, and he has coasted around to the garage area, as did Mike Harmon a little bit earlier. So not everybody having quite as great a day here as Michael Waltrip, who tops the speed chart. Now there's aero push.
You got that right. That's aerodynamics at its finest. Winglets and all.
A little flare out, a little spoiler. A little nice bird's eye view of the track.
Yeah, well, he's getting ready to head off into Lake Chloe and get him some lunch.
Here is Jeff Hammond.
He said he's going to put on the Ritz right now. Dale Earnhardt Jr., got your piece going pretty good. You were telling me a second ago you ought to be as good or faster than Michael, right?
Well, we should run as good as him. We got a couple tests to find overnight here, and I think the boys will get it tomorrow. We got another practice to work on the car tomorrow, and we really ain't taped up yet. So, but the car drives good. They built a real nice piece, and real proud of the team. And first couple efforts this year, and our first effort last year being a win at Richmond, and this being our second race together. They're doing a fabulous job.
Now, a second ago, I asked you about, are you going to go back to Richmond and try to defend your championship? You said, no, I think I'm going to pass there, but you are going to run a few more races, right?
Yeah, we're going to run here again in July and in Talladega before that. So looking forward to those two races. But we've got a pretty neat deal put together with this team. Going to have a lot of neat stuff happening all year long. The paint scheme in July for this car in the night race is something everybody needs to check out. I think it probably might be the coolest paint scheme ever, even cooler than some of Darrell's old rides.
Well, how about that, DW? He says right now he's got something coming at you. Better than the chrome car, he said.
I got to see it to believe it.
You know, speaking of which, Jeff, you know, there's a few races they're not going to run that car, and Darrell's looking for something to do. Did you ask Junior about that?
I will. Oh, by the way, I've been meaning to ask you right now. DW is looking for a ride. Do you think there's a time and a place maybe we can kind of get him in this car? I mean, I'll be glad to help work on it. I'll polish it for him and everything.
It depends on how much money he's got. So, I mean, nothing's free. He ought to know that. So, Maybe we can work something out.
I can't believe.
He got that on tape, Daryl. He said he'd work something out. All you got to do is dust off some of that old money you got.
Yeah, dust it off, right.
He treated me just like his daddy used to. That's what Dale used to tell me. I said, Dale, how about loan me? He said, get your own.
You know, guys, we need to explain what Dale Earnhardt Jr. was talking about where he said we're not even taped up yet. And what he's talking about is on the front end of this car, this is the radiator opening. You have one there and you have one there. And what he's talking about, you see right there, they have a little bit of opening. And when these guys go to qualify, they'll pretty much have that tape completely solid because you're only worried about 2 laps. And the more tape you put on that front end, it reduces the drag, makes it run faster down the straightaway, also increases the front downforce, plants the nose. So trust me, that little opening right there, when he comes to qualify tomorrow, it'll be block solid or maybe just a little bit opening, a little
slither, maybe.
Little slither.
Yeah.
But, Larry, what's the difference between opening up a hole here and opening up a hole down here in this lower opening?
I thought you'd never ask. It's like a weather map. This is the high pressure area down here. This is the low pressure area. Down here, you can open up a smaller opening and it'd be more effective. But, Jeff, down there, it increases the drag more. And it would hurt the front downforce more because that's the higher pressure area.
You're exactly right, Larry. What we've been talking about all along is the nose and how we can take this valence and get it all the way down here on the ground, sealing that air off and making it go up and over the car. That's a real high pressure area when you do that. So making a little opening, a 1x1 or 2x2 opening would put probably 4 or 5 or maybe even more counts of drag depending on which car it is. So it's better to take it up, over, and up the top of this roof right here. So blocking everything off is going to be a lot better off if you can get by with it.
Yeah, you might have to open a little more on the top, but it would not increase the drag as much as opening a little bit at the bottom, which is what we all fight for here at Daytona and Talladega, reducing the drag.
At home, people are grabbing rolls of 2-inch wide tape and going out to their street cars and making adjustments.
Don't do this at home.
We'll be right back. Jimmy Vasser out on track making another run. In NASCAR Busch Series practice, Kevin Harvick has climbed up into the top 5. So it's now 4 Chevys and 1 Ford with the 5 fastest speeds of this session. Dick Berggren.
In 1994, Mike Wallace entered the ARCA race here at Daytona Speedway, won it. So far, that's his only victory at Daytona. But this year, he's in a good ride at the Busch Series. Tony Lambert is his crew chief. How about it? How's your chances?
Well, I think they're very good. You know, we had the opportunity to run 3 different races here this weekend, the truck race, the Busch race, and the Winston Cup race. And I've got good teams and good cars and trucks and everything. So real excited about Tony Lambert being on board along with, you know, our team owner Fred Biaggi and Geico. And the car's been in the top 10 all through practice, and hopefully we can just make it all count.
Now, you're Rusty Wallace's younger brother. The question is, are you the better-looking brother?
Yeah, you fans got to make that decision. But, you know, proud Rusty's our brother, and Kenny and I, you know, that there's just 3 of us in the family. We all 3 get to race cars for a living and have a great time doing it.
And their dad may have been the best of all 3 of them, too.
No, that's for sure. That's how we all got started in this business, and today Dad just can't understand why we all do it, and we blame it on him totally.
You should. He was a real winner. He won lots of races.
Is that a gecko on the hood of that car? Well, maybe. Matt Kenseth out for another run.
Right now, Matt is 11th quickest on the speed charts, but Mike Wallace, you know, he named all the races he's running down here, and right now they're somewhat all part-time runs. He did tell me down here at the test, though, that they plan on maybe running the first 8 to 10 of these Busch races and kind of see where they end up in points before they make a decision just to run a limited schedule.
Okay. Matt Kenseth's run put him up to 11th.
Yep.
On the
Kerry
speed chart.
Earnhardt's back out there making a fast one. He just run his high line. He's on a 2-lap run. He ran the high line, throwaway lap, and now he's on his fast lap.
Where's Bradshaw? He hasn't been up here to harass us yet.
He's probably trying to, you know, he's recovering from, had to do football there for a number of weeks.
He probably won't show up to race day.
No, he's probably down in the Bahamas or somewhere.
If you look at the front of that car, it looks like, Daryl, they may be on a bonsai qualifying run. Looks like it's taped up completely solid.
Yeah, he didn't bump Michael, but he's down to a 49.03 on that run. Second.
Yeah, that's within 6/100ths.
Yeah, they're close.
And again, what we'll see when these cars go to qualify with the restrictor plate, like the Winston Cup cars, always the second lap will be quicker.
Yeah.
You just keep getting faster because it takes time to build that momentum up with down on power with the restrictor plate.
And, I mean, if they've got everything pretty much up
I don't
to
know what was
snuff on the
different,
car.
but it felt like the front end wasn't gripping. It felt like the tires were chattering, wouldn't stay on the bottom.
Yeah, if they have everything up to snuff on the car, that was a good clean run. He's complaining a little about the car itself, though.
And you know, Mike, you asked me earlier another reason why these cars are maybe not a lot quicker than the Winston Cup cars. In Winston Cup, NASCAR really don't mandate anything as far as the rate of the front springs. But with these Busch cars, they take the 2 front springs, and the total rate of both front springs has to come up to 3,000 pounds, where in Winston Cup, the total of both front springs might not even be 1,000 pounds.
Probably about what it is.
And the reason is to keep the front from traveling. The stiffer the front springs, the less it will travel and get the nose on the ground.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things they do in Busch they don't do in Winston Cup.
So theoretically, you could have 2 1,500-pound springs in the front of your car. Or you can start to split it where you've got more right front than you do left front. But it still has to total 3,000 pounds.
And what Kerry was describing could be a product of those stiffer front springs. The stiffer the front springs, the less the front end bites, and could actually make the front wheels chatter through the corner.
Stacy Compton, we're watching the Kingsford Charcoal Chevy, 18th fastest of the cars that have practiced so far. Here's Matt.
Mike, we've talked a lot about drivers pulling double duty, running Winston Cup and Busch. Well, Shane Meal is running double duty this week, sort of. He's a driver and a crew chief. Now, you volunteered yourself as a crew chief for your buddy TJ Majors in the Dash Series. Which did you like better, driving or crew chief?
I definitely like it over here, driving better. Crew chiefing was a whole lot of fun and got me back to, I come from the Goodies Dash Series, and it's a really great series, and I hate we're losing it this year, not going to be another NASCAR sanctioned division, but I just wanted to get back and help my buddy TJ out. He had never been here or raced in the Dash Series, and I was the Rookie of the Year 2 years ago, so I wanted to help out a little bit. And it was fun. Yesterday, I screwed him up a little bit, made a rookie crew chief mistake, and pitted and it rained, and that screwed us up. But I'm liking it over here better. We're in the top 10 fastest now. We weren't near that fast over there in the Dash Series, and most of it was my fault.
Now, are you in your preseason attire here?
Yeah, my suit's not here till tomorrow at 10:30, so I hope the TVs are just showing from the shoulder up, because that won't be good for Dark Dog and Gould's Pumps and all our other sponsors. So we're looking forward to a good day here. We're 7th right now and hope to get better than that.
Feel like you got a shot at the pole?
It'll be hard to beat DEI's cars with Dale Jr. and you know Nemechek's going to be good, all his cars. But, you know, I can't put anything past my guys. My guys are awesome, and they've improved every time we've been out, and I'm sure that's what they'll do from here on out.
And he's improved a lot himself over the past year. Keep an eye on Shane Meal this year. He has a good shot to go to victory lane. Mike?
He is 8th fastest so far. Michael Waltrip, Kerry Earnhardt, Casey Kane, Kevin Harvick, and Dale Jr. have the 5 fastest times in this Busch practice. Welcome back to Daytona. Not much change in the top 10. Well, there's one. Jimmy Vasser up there, 6th in the Dodge. Shane Meal is 8th behind Joe Nemechek. Jamie McMurray pushed back to 9th, and Mike Wallace with the 10th fastest speed right now.
You know, it's funny, Larry, a lot of these guys were building Pontiacs just for down here in Talladega. And that doesn't necessarily seem to be the case this year.
Reason being, they were a victim of their own success. Because the center of the spoiler of the Pontiac was so much lower, NASCAR, I think, finally realized how much better they were. So they are 3/4 of an inch taller than the Ford rear spoiler and a 1/2 inch taller than the Dodge and Chevrolet and 2 inch wider than any of the other makes. So when you start going wider and taller rear spoiler, that increases that drag. So they discourage teams, I think, a lot of them from going to the Pontiac.
Yeah, that's a great big old air brake on the back of that thing.
Speaking of air brakes, Jeff Hammond.
Oh, that really hurts coming from you guys up there. Oh, man. Hey, Larry Mack, you know how we always keep talking about the front nose of these cars and trying to get them down on the ground. If you look here on Ashton Lewis's car, they've got little tangs that are already kind of like pop-rooted lower than the regular skirt to try to determine how much the nose is going to the ground and where exactly it's stopping at without tearing the whole skirt up. again, that gives you an idea how much lower you can go with it as long as you don't get below NASCAR's limitations. But also, it just keeps from tearing up extra pieces of material and slowing the car down, because you know if it hits real hard, it can slow the car down.
Yeah, and inspection height, when they go through the inspection room, the minimum is 3.5 inches, but it's hard to run that when you travel these cars down, so they put those little, I'm not sure what did he call them?
A tang.
Oh, okay, I call them checking devices.
I don't know if he's talking about a thing.
A tang. I thought that was a breakfast drink.
I'm not sure. I never heard them called tangs before.
And of course, you'll always put a fresh one on normally to qualify.
Fresh tang.
Go ahead and let that, fresh tang. Let that thing rub, because again, the lower it is to the ground, all the way around the racetrack in the corners and on the straightaways, it's going to reduce the drag and run faster.
Now, pretty soon they'll limit the number of tangs you can have on the front of that spoiler, or you'd have some downforce.
No, they just go and say, what are them tangs anyway?
Man tried to do a good report, and we're up here making fun of him.
Something to do about that?
Well, nothing's really changed.
No. All right, I got one. Greg Fielding again.
Oh, here we go.
Font of barely useful information. The biggest crash in NASCAR history occurred in this race, the Busch Series race. It was then the late model sportsman race in 1960. Over 70 cars started. How many do you think wrecked on the very first lap?
70 started. I'm going to just take a guess and say 45.
You're not far off.
I don't have a clue.
37-car crash in turn 4 on the first lap. Canadian Dick Foley got sideways, slid to the bottom of the track, kept going, went on to finish 10th. Of the 37, 8 cars flipped. No serious injuries.
We wasn't far from that number at the Talladega Spring Race in the Busch Series. We wasn't far at all.
You're right. But, you know, all we talk about today is, the big one, as if it just started happening last year.
They've been doing it since 1960. There's the proof.
Exactly. So this track at Talladega have always been known for kind of big ones.
Here you see Jamie McMurray. Of course, we were talking to him earlier, and he's 10th quickest right now on the chart. This team was one of the teams that ran Pontiacs last year with Jimmy Spencer driving. Now they went to the Dodge just like they have in the Winston Cup Series with Mike Wallace, and Ernie Elliott is building their engines for these Busch cars.
Busch practice rolls on at Daytona International Speedway on speed. Welcome back to the Busch Series garage and practice for the Koolerz 300 that you'll see Saturday on Fox as Speed Week rolls on for Daytona. Jeff Hammond was talking about those tangs that hung off the front air dams, the front spoilers of these cars, at least some of them, in practice configuration. I think since we're in the state of Florida, don't you think we ought to call them Chads?
Hanging tangs, hanging Chads.
Dangling Chads.
Dangling Chads.
You know, they made a big thing out of that in Florida a couple years ago. Then we'd have to bring Catherine Harrison to inspect them.
Yeah. Well, speaking
that'd be
of
a big deal.
Chads, Brad Baker just jumped up there to 4th place.
How about that?
That's pretty amazing.
New deal, new Dodge for this season.
Yeah, got a new sponsor. Gary Baker, his father, right there from Franklin, Tennessee, by the way. Gary used to run the Bristol racetrack
and the
involved in the Nashville racetrack.
And Gary's raced here in the 24 hours.
24 hour and an old Corvette he had.
Now, Nashville's a suburb of Franklin. Isn't that the way it works?
That's exactly how it works.
All right, I was mistaken.
Everybody's moving to Franklin.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 8 car. He's on his little old practice qualifying run. His first lap was 49.60. So we'll see what his second lap is. But meanwhile, while he's making his second lap, Mike Joy, I think we have a couple we want to talk to.
Yeah, let's see if there's a sweet tang underneath one of these cars in the garage area.
And Dick Bergman and Jeff Hammond are hard at it.
Yeah, I'm looking for a tang underneath this thing. Hammond, you find any under here?
Well, you're not going to find a tang under here, I don't think, Dick. I mean,
no, why not?
Well, they just don't hang. Well,
you're not looking hard enough,
This
man.
right here would be a tang right here, hanging down right here.
That's a tang.
This is a tang right here.
That's a tang they tie the car down with.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, and this tang is what holds the gasoline right there.
Exactly right. Yeah. I mean, you guys up there in the booth need to get a little bit more liberal and get your dictionary out. I mean, we found boogity, boogity, boogity in the dictionary the other day.
Yeah, now
surely
we got tangs.
You can find a tang.
They just don't spend enough time in the garage, those booth guys.
Exactly. They don't spend enough time in the library like you do.
Dick Bergman, you know better than that.
Well, you do, Larry McReynolds, yeah. But how many tangs have you found down here? You're not looking hard enough.
Well, I'm too busy thinking about what I'm going to tell Daryl next. So, I mean, I'm sorry about that.
All right. Well, when your nap is over, yeah, hop on up and tell us something.
Well, right now we just came out from underneath the Casey Kane's car right here, and he's having a pretty good weekend so far down his Great Clips Ford. It's looking pretty good so far. And Casey, step on up there and tell us about how things are going so far.
Things are going really well so far. Came down here and tested. Everything went good. We're back now, and the Great Clips car's been fast so far. You know, Ford, everybody that's helped us out's done a great job, and we're excited for tomorrow.
Well, you know, it's kind of like this is the second time you've been down here, right?
Yeah, I raced here in the July race last year, and you know, now working with Aikens Motorsports and Wes Ward's our crew chief. We have a real good deal here. I'm excited, and they've been working hard on this Speedway car for a long time now, so it's a good piece.
Feel like you got a shot for the pole?
I don't know about the pole. I mean, we're right up there. I mean, we still have a little bit left, you know, with oils and brakes and all that, but you know, you see both Earnhardt's up there now and Waltrip, you know, they're all fast, so I don't know. I think we definitely have a top 5 car, maybe.
All right, we know we got guys who got a top 5 car here. Matt Yoakum, what do you got over there, buddy?
Well, Jeff, Michael Waltrip isn't the only guy who's got a posse. DW has a Franklin, Tennessee posse. Brad Baker, you just turned in the 4th fastest time. That's got to be a big boost of confidence for you and this team.
It is. We knew we had a fast car coming down here. We tested real strong. We tried a few things the first practice that didn't work out the way we'd hoped. So we just went back to what we knew. This practice, what we knew worked, and sure enough, it did. These guys have given me a great car. The team at Jessel and Gasoline Alley's given us a good motor. Trust Choice has come on to help us out and give us the opportunity to put a good car on the track, and it's paying off.
Do you feel like there's any more left in it, or is that about it?
We think we may be able to get just a tad more. We're going to try a couple things here real quick, and, you know, we know we are good, in good shape where we are right now, so we're happy.
Well, when you pull out the Voodoo oil and just about everything else, who knows? We may have a surprise pole sitter.
Well, Mike Wallace has just knocked Baker out of the top 5 with his most recent run, so things continue to evolve in Busch Series practice.
It's my understanding, talking to that Brad Baker group when I was down here at their Busch test a few weeks ago, it's a one-race deal. A lot of this is a byproduct of the team that Hank Parker Jr. drove for last year, and Gary Cogswell, who was the crew chief, he's over there helping Brad Baker. You saw that quick shot a while ago of Coy Gibbs in the 18 car, Mike Harmon in the 44 car. That right there is wasting tires and fuel on practice qualifying day, because your time's going to be deceiving. You're out there getting help. You're actually getting help, and then when you get side by side, you're fighting one another. So that's not the kind of practice you need to be doing on practice before qualifying.
Yeah, Coy Gibbs jumped up to 24th. I think he was over here about 35th or 34th, I think. So just because he got a little help. So deceiving.
Well, we're getting later in the session. We're seeing cars going out in a little closer together and more of them, as the search for speed continues for the drivers and teams in the NASCAR Busch Series. Sunday. Great Sunday on Fox. It's the Daytona 500, the 45th annual running of the great race. Is Dale Earnhardt Jr. the favorite? Well, we'll see when coverage begins on Fox at noon Eastern Time. Here are the practice speeds so far in the NASCAR Busch Series in this second hour of practice. Ashton Lewis backs it down after making another practice run. Single car practice pretty much, getting ready to qualify tomorrow. 31st on the speed chart for Ashton Lewis Jr. Dick Berggren?
Well, for the last 11 years, Stanton Barrett has tried to land himself a good Busch Series ride. He's a Hollywood stuntman, and so he'd go off and jump out of a few buildings, light himself on fire, get a few bucks, be able to run a race or two, and then run out of money and go jump off a few more buildings and get a few more bucks and light himself on fire. Finally, it's happened. He's got a terrific ride. Car number 60, the car that won the championship last year with Greg Biffle. What's it like to finally make it?
It feels great, you know, to have the opportunity to be with such a good team, too. You know, it's just a very fortunate opportunity, and everybody's worked real hard to get into this sport on my team, including myself. So I'm just thrilled, couldn't be more happy to be involved with a great organization, great sponsors with Odo, Band and Bojangles. We're having a great time, and hopefully we have a great weekend this weekend.
We've counted up a total of 45 broken bones and all that Hollywood stuntman work. Any of those things interfere with your ability to drive a race car?
It makes it complicated sometimes. You know, all of it wasn't doing movies either. You know, other things are motocross and skiing and things that help you to be good in stunts. But sometimes, you know, your neck and arms, and I had some feet problems, but nothing that I can't get over. Just a lot of workout and keep your mind focused on what you have to do in the race car. And usually if you're running good, you don't remember all those things that bother you.
Now, Cowboy Starlin is his crew chief. They've got a virtually all-new team here, so it's going to be fun to watch Stanton Barrett this year as he tries to win his first ever Busch Series race.
And you know who Stanton Barrett's father is? The Rocket Man.
Stan Barrett.
Stan Barrett. Remember when
land speed record holder.
Yeah, in the Budweiser, whatever that thing was.
Missile.
Rocket car.
The missile on wheels it was.
And ran Winston Cup back in 1981.
Yeah, and he was friends with Hal Needham and that whole crowd, you know. Lance Norrick, you know, the Winston West champion. His father was one of the guys that they all hung out. All those guys kind of hung out together.
Todd Bodine in the 92 car. Right now, Todd is 17th quickest on the speed chart. That car that Stanton Barrett's driving here, of course, is a car that Greg Biffle ran at the restrictor plate racetracks last year, finished second here last time out in July. So a good race car.
How is it all these people in other forms of racing have great nicknames? The Rocket Man Barrett. Who are we talking about? Dandy Dick Landy, Arnie the Farmer Beswick, Dino Don Nicholson. The drag racers, they had the shortest races, so I guess they had to have the longest names.
Oh yeah, well they were showmen, you know.
Yep.
It's all about putting on a show, and part of that was they didn't have sponsors, so they'd put their names on their cars. Like Candy and I always thought Candy and Hughes was were two guys, but they had the Chi-Town Hustler.
Just
and,
that 75
and
might be upset with
guy
us.
from
They
Texas
didn't
that
say
was in
anything
the
up
Winston
here,
Cup
but-
racing there. Raymond Beetle, and the Blue Max.
And Sox and Martin and Gap and Roush. Jack Roush was a big drag racer.
So I don't know, you know, back several years ago we had nicknames. I remember I had one, Jaws, and a few others.
We just heard the radio transmission from Todd Bodine saying the 75 car might be upset with us, and that would probably be from maybe pulling out in front of him while he was trying to make a qualifying run. Let's go to Matt Yoakum.
Well, one guy who made a lot of headlines last year in memories, Mike Bliss, NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. Looking at the speed charts, 22nd, what do you think?
It's typical, you know. Every time you come back, you got better motor, better everything, and you go slower. And all we did was paint it and put Rockwell animation on the side and put a better motor in, and we're off a half second. So I don't know. From when we tested, that was a good time for us. We weren't fooling ourselves or anything, and we're just going to come back and try to see what's going on. Maybe a brake's hanging up or something.
So you and Timmy going to head back to the trailer, try to put your heads together and come up with something? Or?
Well, fortunately here, it's not, driver doesn't have a whole lot of feed, you know. It's all about the team and the cars and motors. So, I mean, we're going to try to find out what's the problem and why we're a little bit slow. I mean, we should be running flats easy right now.
Well, he's currently 22nd on the charts. They're going to try to pick that up if they can. Their teammate Coy Gibbs, 26th. Mike?
Now, when he says running flats, he said we should be running 49 seconds flat, 49.00, and they're off that. You see there lining up are the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. Their qualifying is coming up.
And I tell you, the neatest sounding vehicles down here this weekend are the trucks. They come roaring down that back straightaway. They have no restrictor plate. They sound like race cars from a long time ago. And they are, I tell you, they'll put on one whale of a show.
And you'll see it on speed. The whole Craftsman Truck Series will be on speed this year. Jeff?
Oh, yeah, thanks, Mike. I'm down here with Robert Booty Barker. Buddy, you're in the wrong place. You done graduated to Winston Cup.
Right, but the Winston Cup guys caught me trying to cheat on my fuel cans, so I had to come over here and try to borrow a few legal ones from my friends.
You want to try to explain what happened there?
Well, apparently they're tightening down on those oversized fuel cans over on the other side, as you well know. And they've taken quite a few from a lot of us. Well, I just happened to be one of them that decided to confiscate from as well. So I got to find some legal ones somewhere.
I thought Larry taught you better than that. He did. See, y'all both taught me real well. Well, I think it's back to the booth, Mike.
You mean some 11-gallon cans are bigger than others?
And of course, I wanted to make sure we understood the cans he's talking about has nothing to do with the race car. It's actually the dump cans that they dump the fuel out of into the race car. Now, one thing we also need to clarify, we talk about how NASCAR has worked to make the Busch Series and the Winston Cup Series close. The Busch Series did not go to the small fuel cell. They are still at the 22-gallon fuel cell like we've always run before, but this is the dump cans right here, and they're supposed to hold 11 gallons of fuel. And what they'll do, they'll put a little longer neck on them. They'll maybe make them a little fatter around. Time's done, they'll hold 13.5 gallons. One can of fuel in Winston Cup sells up. You don't even comment on that, do you, DW?
I ain't going there, Larry. I don't know nothing. A driver's mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Welcome back to Daytona. Clark Griswold was here. That's the character Chevy Chase played at Christmas Vacation when he had all those Christmas lights all wired together.
How many water hoses can you hook into one spigot?
I don't understand why we don't have any pressure.
That has got to be a world's record right there.
Matt, where does all that go?
Mike, I don't know. They go everywhere. I've got them going all the way down here. We've got mini Lake Lloyd. Oh, dear God, we've got one that's got a leak.
Trouble. What these water hoses for, there is a little bit of a leak right there.
Yeah, right.
They're everywhere. Look out, Stoll. You're going to get run over by the 60.
This is to cool the radiators down, to cool the water down. Again, they have these cars taped up solid, not a lot of airflow going through the radiator, and it's to replenish the water where you've got cooler water in there to go out and make your next run. But boy, what a mess of water hoses. Or as we call them in Alabama, hose pipe.
Hose pipe, yeah.
Hose pipe?
That's the first time I heard that was when I went down to Franklin. Wow.
I had a boy working for me one time. He was from up north, and I sent him to the truck to get a hose pipe.
Yeah.
He came back about 10 minutes later just sweating and said, "What's a hose pipe?" Yeah. He was hunting a box that had hose pipe wrote on it.
You ever send anybody after a long wait?
Or a sky hook? I sent Hammond one time.
Sent Hammond for a long wait one time.
He still hadn't come back.
I don't think he's ever going to come back.
Mike Wallace on the Speedway. Let's go back down to the garage. Jeff, Dick?
I tell you right now, guys, you know, we talk about illegal parts. We know we've got some illegal parts up there in that booth, right, Dick? But down here at the table, we've got a few here we've already come up with. An illegal side window off of Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s cars. The number 37 car had an illegal pan to bell housing deal that they weren't supposed to have on the car. And, Dick, I think you got a few things right there that's really going to open some eyes.
Oh, I really like this one. Titanium brake rotor. They're supposed to be made out of heavy-duty steel. Here's a brake rotor that's just plain the wrong dimension. It's got to have 1.25 inches. This one is not 1.25 inches. We got some cast aluminum parts here for the fuel cells. Those are all illegal. What's this thing here, Hammond?
Oh, there's a little deflector once again. We went up underneath the bell housing to go back to the transmission. What they're trying to do with this part right here is trying to seal that air off. There's a little gap between those two parts. They want to try to seal that off again. Anything to reduce drag.
Dick, what do you figure a titanium brake rotor costs?
That's expensive stuff,
Well,
right?
it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, no question about this. This is from car number 43. And see, they've all got this little tag. Tells you what car it came from and what they found that was illegal. NASCAR will take these pieces and parts and they'll put them off in a warehouse that's probably several acres in dimension by now, because they've been doing this for over 50 years, taking the illegal pieces and parts.
And the one thing I want to add right here, Mike, you asked the question about, well, how much a titanium rotor would cost. It's not so much the cost of the part. It's what it's going to cost you when it gets took away from you.
Yeah, well, that too.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, though, you know, a couple of years ago, you could come down in this garage area and you'd see just tables and tables and tables full of this stuff. But we don't anymore because NASCAR's done such a good job of going to the teams before Daytona, telling them what they can and cannot do. This is almost nothing in comparison to what we saw at Daytona in years gone by.
But, Dick, one other thing I want to throw in there, what NASCAR has done with some of their past fines they've thrown out, I believe they've got everybody's attention.
Ah, shucks. I was hoping to pick up a pair of those on eBay. Yeah. Guess they're going to the warehouse. Busch practice rolls on speed. Welcome back to the waning moments of NASCAR Busch Series practice. Let's get some final thoughts from the garage.
I am really looking forward to Saturday's race, Mike. It is always one of the best races of Speed Weeks. Look, you got Earnhardt Jr., you got Nemechek, you got Michael Waltrip from the Winston Cup Series, and a bunch of hungry Busch drivers.
To Matt. And Dick, one surprise we may see on pole day and later in the week is a young gun by the name of Casey Kane, the open wheel standout, 4th quick in this session. Who knows? We may have a big surprise on pole day or even on victory lane on Saturday. To Jeff Hammond.
Well, Matt, you're talking about surprises. We're looking over my shoulder right now. You can see a lot of these Busch cars are going through their room of doom, and that could be the determining factor whether who does sit on the pole, whether or not Waltrip, Earnhardt, or another Earnhardt, how they go through that room could affect how they qualify. Back to you, Mike.
I'm thinking the biggest surprise in Busch qualifying tomorrow here on Speed is going to be which DEI engine is going to win the pole.
No, that's a fact. But, you know, they're all really close. Michael's at a 48.97, and all the way down to 10th place there's only 2/10 difference in their time. So anybody could win the pole right now.
But I'm going to tell you, if you take the DEI conglomerate out of it, at parity exists. You have 2 Pontiacs, 2 Dodges, 2 Fords, and then the 4 Chevrolets in the top 10 right now.
49 drivers were on the track today. 43 cars will start the race, and qualifying is tomorrow here on Speed, 2:45 Eastern.
So racing ought to be like that show on TV. Who are we going to vote off the island? That's what I want. Vote that guy off. He's too fast.
Now, coming up next on Speed, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. They'll have their pole qualifying for the Florida Dodge Dealers 250. And that's coming up at 3 o'clock Eastern time. Between now and then, we'll get updates from the Speed studio from John Roberts and Ken Squire. Who's your pick for the pole tomorrow, DW?
I'm going to take my brother.
Larry?
I was going to pick him, but just to make it interesting, I'm going to go with Dale Earnhardt Jr.
And yes, I am sucking up, in case you were wondering.
You still want to drive
in the draft? Does it suck up good in the draft?
Oh yeah, I got a good toe.
Well, my nickel's going on Kerry Earnhardt. I think that'd be a pretty neat story, and I just couldn't believe the look on Bradshaw's face should that happen.
I was going to say, we wouldn't be able to live with Bradshaw if he sits on the pole.
So what else is new? All right, let's go to the Speed studio. John Roberts and Ken Squire.